And Alan, I also want to get to this story. Former FBI Director James Comey, he's coming under fire. The Hill's now reporting over half of Comey's memos recalling conversations with President Trump contained classified information, we're learning. President Trump weighed in on this, also tweeting this earlier. James Comey leaked classified information to the media. That is so illegal. Alan, what is your take on that?
Well, I think President Trump is making the same mistake that his critics make. A, he's rushing to judgment about whether something is illegal. And second, he's trying to criminalize political differences. He doesn't like Comey. Nobody likes Comey. The Democrats don't like him. The Republicans don't like him. But I'm not so sure that what he did was illegal.
But don't forget that James Comey, Alan, excuse me if you will, don't forget, though, he said that that was private property. Those were his personal notes.
And he's wrong. He's wrong about that. They belong to Congress. They reflect conversations that occurred while he was an employee of the United States of America. They are the property of the United States. What he did was at the very least unseemly for a director of the FBI, whose job it is to make sure there are no leaks of classified material, to himself use a Columbia law professor to launder material that may have contained classified information is unseemly. Whether it's criminal or not, I think we need an investigation. We shouldn't rush to call things criminal unless they are clearly criminal. What I've said about the critics of President Trump, I say about the critics of Comey. Let's not rush. Let's look at it. Let's analyze it. Let's call it criminal only if it really is criminal.
Alan, and a good point to make, that not to rush to judgment on what Comey did leak or did not leak, and what was classified or what was not classified. Coming from the intelligence community, you know, there are different reasons that they might classify a document. They could be classified after he had written them. They could be classified as they're looking at them through the investigation. And again, we don't know specifically what he handed to this law professor, and most likely those documents are still kept at the FBI. That's where they certainly should be kept, because you're right, they are property of the U.S. government, but that doesn't mean that Comey didn't have a lot of information in his head, and that may have been what he actually shared.
Or even if he had it in his head, what's in your head and what you learned while you were the director of the FBI, and what may contain information that is not available to the public should not be leaked through a law professor. So I think we are right in condemning him and holding him to the same standard he held Hillary Clinton to. We're entitled to do that. What we're not entitled to do is say it's so illegal before we hear all the facts and all the evidence.
And again, just to reiterate, that his claim was that he did it as a private citizen, no longer a member of the FBI. Right. A lot of people who are government officials share their experience as government officials in biographies, et cetera, after they leave their
But they do it with
service.
Clearance. I've represented some of them.
Agreed.
You need to get clearance before you publish anything you learned as the director of the FBI. You can't just make that decision yourself. Right. He not only made it, but he made it and hid it. He hid it through a launderer, through a law professor. That was wrong. It should never have been done. He should have had the courage of his conviction to stand in front of a TV camera and say, I want a special counsel appointed. Here are the reasons. Here are the memos. I'm going to give them to you in the press. Then he would have to pay the consequences. But to hide it sounds like an admission that he was doing something wrong.